Hello, my name is Cherie Lasota. We're here at the 2025 Western Dairy Management Conference. Today, we're here to talk about feed, the number one expense for dairies. More specifically, how to make the shift to a feed efficiency-based style of herd management. Just this morning, Veronica Shabtai shared the research behind the first sensor to be able to accurately measure the dry matter intake at an individual cow level. There was a lot of talk about what that means for the future of herd management. Veronica is here with us now to take a deeper look into this technological breakthrough. And she's joined by Jacob de Jong from Parkview Dairy in Delhi, California. Jacob was one of the first users of the Afimilk feed efficiency service. Veronica, Jacob, welcome. So, Veronica, let's start with something basic. What exactly is the Afimilk feed efficiency service?
Okay, so talking about Afimilk, I have to mention the other capabilities of the Afimilk, not just the feed efficiency. So obviously we have the capability to detect heats for the animals, to understand when to inseminate those. We have rumination and eating to detect different diseases, and panting for heat stress. And today we have another capability, which is the feed efficiency capability. We can now know for each cow how much she's eating, her dry matter intake. And because we use the milk meters of Afimilk, we know how much she's producing. So the milk divided by the dry matter intake gives us the feed efficiency, the conversion between feed to milk production. And on top of that, we have the ability now to know the income over feed, the profitability of each animal. Again, income over the expense of the feed. Having those data points inside of our Afifarm, our software, we can give a report to the farmers and some information about the animals so they can base their decisions on the feed efficiency capability.
So individual feed efficiency has been a goal for some time. How did Afimilk get there first?
So obviously we are very proud to be there first. And I think it's part of our investing in innovation. Over 40 years ago, it was the first milk meter that was invented in Afimilk, and also the leg tag. So it's not our first invention, I have to say. But we took a lot of time and dedicated a lot of effort to get there. There was a research that was going on for over 3 years with 35,000 data points, day of cows. And we were looking at dry matter intake weighted in research facilities in United States, in the Michigan State University, in Canada, and in Italy. And we were able to take those dry matter intake with the actual weight and put it across a new algorithm we have in our Afimilk. So the way we have an algorithm for eating and for rumination, we have now a new algorithm with the help of machine learning to have the ability to see the dry matter intake per cow.
The sensor collects the data and funnels it into the software. So at what point can the producer see that, and what can they do with that data?
So that point also took some time. It's not that we had these new data points and said, okay, now we have a product in our hands. We did an extensive pilot with over 50 farms and worked with farmers to see how they're going to use it. One of the first applications which we saw on the farm is the ability to cull by profitability. So we give already a list of animals that the farmer decided they are do not breeds and they're somewhat on the way to be culled. And we rank those from the least profitable to the most profitable animals, and we suggest just to cull the ones that are least profitable first. When you look at milk production, because that's what you have before that, you don't see the full picture. You have many animals that have the same milk production or even higher, but their profitability is lower. And this is like the new exciting data that we have to share.
Jacob, you were one of the first producers to get a look at this technology. How has it affected how you make culling decisions?
Yeah, I think the biggest point is knowing what cows we can and cannot cull. Prior to having this data, I would know what my pen level intake was, and I knew what that ration costed at that average intake, but I didn't know what that individual cow's intake was. So I was culling off of strictly average numbers, and there's a wide range that makes up that average. So after having this data, I was able to essentially use that income or feed cost to make that culling decision, and just make sure that any cow that was deemed not worthy to have been bred, or that was maybe going to exit the herd at some point, we can milk her all the way out until she is truly at a break even or get rid of her just prior to a loss.
So in what other ways can the data that you leverage from the feed efficiency service be used on the farm?
So another application that we found that is more for the long run, like for culling is great, but it's tactic decisions that you have some money left more on the table, but not as much as you can leverage when you have an improved feed efficiency for your herd. So to have, and obviously we know it's a heritable trait, feed efficiency. It's not something that Afimilk invented. It was published in many research papers. So if you want to have a more feed efficient farm, you need to breed your most feed efficient animals with sex semen. So they will be the replacement heifers on your herd. And obviously, if you breed your least or the worst animals with sex semen, that's the animals that you are going to get in your future. So those we recommend to beef or even D&B if you have enough replacement on your herd. And this we found kind of the second application that people use, because it takes more trusting and it takes some time, but we are getting there with many of the farmers, and it's very exciting.
How have you found that to be true on your farm?
Yeah, I agree with what she had said. The breeding is a bigger decision. I do think making the right decision of what animal you put sex in versus beef will speak to the life of your farm. And that takes many lactations to get to where that's at. So at that point, I haven't used it entirely for breeding decisions yet. We always look at multiple parameters that decide whether she does or does not get sexed. And as I learn the product more, that's a parameter that will fit in with the others to make that breeding decision. Currently, I've used it for dry offs. That's been a second spot that I've used it. I know when a cow's in the dry pen that she's going to lose us $3.50 a day just because of feed costs alone. And if she's still in the milk string and her income or feed cost is a higher loss than that, I might as well send her the dry pen and I can lose less dollars on her per day. Most likely, if her income or feed cost is that low and it's less or it's greater than a -5, so it's a larger negative, she probably doesn't need to be on that high of an energy diet anyways. So we're just putting weight on her back, which will cause greater transition periods or greater transition issues come freshening. So I'm happy to send her to the dry pen to save money, but also have hopefully a healthier cow that freshens through and can perform better in her next lactation.
So you're learning to trust the data to make those decisions, but you're using Aficolor to make breeding decisions and guide those decisions anyway, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And how? Tell me a little bit about the success of that.
Yeah, we're using the collar on the heat side of things. We still do give some shots, but we also are using it on heats throughout the whole program. I think it's a great tool. When you look at your value in a pregnancy, that really drives your whole operation. And if you can't get cows pregnant efficiently, that's going to affect your bottom line. So I think using as many tools to enhance your breeding program as possible is key, alongside of many other tools, but to keep your breeding as efficient as possible, and to be as tight on the program as possible. We obviously don't want cows bred too soon. We also don't want them getting too far out. So getting them as close to what the program calls for as possible is ideal. And AFI helps us find those animals.
Let's talk a little bit about sustainability. So plenty of past research has shown that a feed-efficient cow produces less methane and just improves overall sustainability. So beyond that, what do you feel is the impact of the feed efficiency service on sustainability?
There is an ICAR-approved equation that shows when you improve your feed efficiency, how much methane you mitigate. And we're going to use it in the next versions of our product, in the software, in our Afimilk, to show the improvement of feed efficiency on your farm and how much methane mitigation you did on your farm. I think many of our farmers are looking forward to see that data within their software, and we are going to implement it as soon as we can for the next versions of the software.
And Jacob, what does sustainability mean to you, and how do you think this plays a role?
I think this plays a big role outside of other feed additives that maybe create less emissions. By getting the cow that can eat less and produce the same amount of milk or even more milk than prior, she's more sustainable in the most effective way. And as a dairyman, our goal is to produce as much milk out of that cow as we can at a profitable level. And when we can be sustainable along the way, there's always a benefit in that on everyone's side.
So there's a lot of talk and a lot about possibility about feed efficiency. But, in a grand scheme, what do you think that really means for you and your farm and for other dairymen? Yeah,
I think that almost every dairyman is looking at feed efficiency to some degree. And it's pretty common to look at it on a whole herd level. Some guys can also look at pen levels, but to be able to see on an individual cow brings it about as far as it can go. So the larger an operation gets, the less individualistic you are in animals, but I don't think it makes it any less important. So having tools like this to individually manage a single cow, but by doing it in an efficient, effective way, you're able to speak to your profitability. These collars and different programs, technologies, they all cost money. If we did every one that was out there, we would probably not be dairying anymore. So there's always needs to be a return on investment, and the cows, from almost culling alone, the cows that you can find that are still profitable in your herd that you would have thought otherwise were not, you can keep in production for maybe a couple months longer. There's a handful of those a month that you keep around that you wouldn't have. And that extra revenue that's kept in the herd is enough to offset the cost of these collars alone and still get, much more other added benefits that come alongside these collars.
And how do you think that plays into the future in your growth plans? I mean, looking forward, and if you're looking to grow.
Yeah, I'd love to grow. I don't think I can stay at the numbers I am forever. The industry will continue to grow, so you got to go with it. And if you're not profitable and maintaining healthy margins, you just simply won't be able to. So I think it's important to have the data that you can utilize and make the correct decisions to push your herd forward.
With this new technology, there's so much to learn. Where can people look for the continuing development of this type of approach to herd management?
So we know that we're just at the beginning of understanding what we have in our hands and what we can do with this data. And our research group is continuing on working on the next applications, next data points. We have great partners, work with UPenn, Cornell, and so on to find more applications for our farmers. And you soon will be able to see publications from these universities. Until then, we have an abstract in ADSA conference that our research guys will be there and will explain in more depth how they got to have the dry matter intake per animal. But I think, again, we're just at the beginning. It's going to be so many more coming up. And I'm excited to be here and to see where it goes with our farmers.
Wonderful. Such an exciting future for feed efficiency. So we are out of time for today. I can't thank you both enough for sharing your insight on this breakthrough technology. And we look forward to hearing more about it in the future.
Thank you.